Creating templates and understanding how they work is important. Today, let us discuss how to create a modern layout using modern layout techniques. We will focus on the display property, specifically Flexbox and grid. Flexbox, flexible box layout, allows easy alignment, spacing, and control of the direction of child elements, while grid layout makes it easy to create complex row and column designs. Flexbox is a modern one-dimensional layout system, row or column, used for aligning, spacing, and dynamically distributing elements, while grid is a modern two-dimensional layout system, rows and columns, that allows the creation of complex layouts with precise control over rows and columns. Before we focus on creating layouts, let us first understand the different border styles in CSS. The solid border displays a single solid line, while the dashed border displays a border made of dashes. The dotted border displays a series of dots, and the double border displays two solid lines. The groove border creates a 3D effect that looks carved into the page, whereas the ridge border appears as a 3D border coming out of the page. The inset border makes the elements box look embedded or pushed in, while the outset border makes the elements box appear to pop out. Let us move on to the next property, the CSS box shadow. Please observe carefully how the values work using the X and Y coordinates and the blur radius. For example, box shadow, 2px 2px 5px black, means that the shadow moves 2 pixels to the right, moves 2 pixels downward, and becomes soft and slightly blurred. Another example is box shadow, 04px 10px gray, which means the shadow does not move left or right, moves downward by 4 pixels, and becomes softer and more spread out. Please pause the video and read the other example values of box shadow to better understand how borders and shadows work properly. Now, let us go back to creating layouts, but this time we will focus on the Flexbox display layout to understand how to create a single-dimensional template. We will also learn the necessary Flexbox properties. The advantage of Flexbox, display, Flex, is that it easily arranges, aligns, and distributes space among elements both horizontally and vertically, making layouts responsive and flexible without using floats or manual positioning. Please read and understand the given CSS code that uses display, Flex. Let us review how the given properties work. The display, Flex property makes the container a Flex container, allowing its children to become Flex items that can be easily aligned and spaced. The Flex wrap property allows Flex items to wrap onto multiple lines if they do not fit in a single row. The align content, Flex start property aligns multiple rows of Flex items at the top of the container and only affects wrapped rows, while align items, Flex start aligns individual Flex items at the top of each row and prevents them from stretching. The border, 2px solid red property adds a 2-pixel solid red border around the container. The height, auto property allows the container height to adjust automatically based on its content. The padding, 10px property adds space inside the container between the border and the content, and the gap, 20px property adds spacing between Flex items both horizontally and vertically. From the given example, the output shows the container as a red bordered box. Please review again how these properties work together. Let me give you a short description of the given properties. The align items property controls the alignment of items within a single row, while the align content property controls how multiple rows are spaced inside the container. Both align items and align content are Flexbox properties that only work on elements with display, Flex or display, inline Flex. The Flex wrap property allows Flex items to move to a new row when there is not enough available space, and align content only takes effect when there are multiple rows present. Now, let us discuss the specific properties used in Flex. We will begin with the Flex wrap property. FlexWrap is used with Flex containers to control whether the Flex item should stay in a single line or wrap onto multiple lines. The values that can be used with FlexWrap are as follows: nowWrap, default value. All Flex items stay on a single line, even if they overflow the container. Items shrink, if Flex shrink allows, to fit in one line, and a horizontal scroll may appear if there is overflow. Next value is wrap. Flex items wrap onto multiple lines if necessary. Items move to the next line when they cannot fit, and the direction of new lines follows the Flex direction. Lastly, the wrap reverse. Flex items wrap onto multiple lines in reverse order. Items move to the next line, but the new line appears above the previous line, creating a reverse stacking order. The next property is align items, which aligns individual Flex items along the cross-axis within a single row of a Flex container. By default, the cross-axis is vertical. When set to Flex Start, Flex items are aligned to the start of the cross-axis, while Flex End aligns them to the end. The center value centers the Flex items along the cross-axis, whereas Stretch, the default value, stretches them to fill the container. Finally, the baseline value aligns Flex items based on their text baseline. Let us proceed to the next property, Align Content. The Align Content property works only when FlexWrap wrap is used and there are multiple rows of Flex items. By default, the cross-axis is vertical. When set to Flex Start, the rows are packed at the start of the container, while Flex End packs the rows at the end. The center value centers the rows within the container. Using space between distributes the rows evenly, with the first row at the start and the last row at the end, whereas space around distributes the rows with equal space around them. The space evenly value distributes the rows with equal space between them. Finally, Stretch, which is the default value, stretches the rows to fill the container. Next is the Justify Content property, which aligns Flex items along the main axis. By default, the main axis is horizontal. This property controls the spacing and position of Flex items within a row. When set to Flex Start, items are packed at the start of the main axis, while Flex End packs items at the end. The center value centers the items along the main axis. Using space between distributes the items evenly, with the first item at the start and the last item at the end, whereas space around distributes the items with equal space around them. The space evenly value distributes the items with equal space between them. The Text Align property is a CSS property used to set the horizontal alignment of inline content inside a block-level element, such as text, images, or other inline elements. By default, Text Align is set to left, which aligns text to the left edge of the container. Setting it to right aligns the text to the right edge, while center centers the text horizontally. The Justify value stretches lines so that the text aligns with both the left and right edges, adding extra spacing between words. The Start value aligns text to the start of the writing mode, left in left to right text, right in right to left text, and end aligns text to the end of the writing mode, right in left to right text, left in right to left text. Finally, the Gap property is used to create space between Flex container children. For example, Gap 20px adds a 20 pixel space between the Flex items. To control the left-right spacing of items, use Justify Content, and to control the top-bottom alignment, use Align Items. The Align Content property is used only when FlexWrap wrap is applied and multiple rows of items exist. It is important to note that Align Items, Align Content, and Justify Content are Flexbox layout properties and work only on containers with display, flex or display, inline flex. Before we proceed to our example, please understand the following. The Align Items property aligns all the child items along the cross-axis within a single row of a Flex container. It controls the vertical alignment of the items in that row when the main axis is horizontal. In contrast, the Align Content property aligns all the rows of items along the cross-axis when there are multiple rows, controlling the spacing between the rows within the Flex container. If there is only one row, Align Content has no effect, while Align Items still controls the alignment of items within that row. Let us observe our first example. In this example, we used a single CSS class for the child elements, but it was applied repeatedly to multiple div elements within the container in the HTML. Justify Content Center makes all divs display at the center. The Align Items Flex Start makes the height of each div fit its content individually. In the next example, we removed the Justify Content property. Even with Align Content Center, the div elements are not centered horizontally. It is the Justify Content Center property that ensures all the div elements are displayed at the center along the main axis. Next, we removed the Align Items property. Without Align Items, the heights of the rows will adjust to match the size of the div that contains the most content. If you remove the Align Content property and only use Align Items and Justify Content, your output can still look correct as long as there is only one row of Flex items. This is because Align Content only affects the spacing of multiple rows in a Flex container with FlexWrap. When there is only one row, Align Items controls the vertical alignment of items, and Justify Content controls the horizontal alignment, so the layout will still appear properly aligned. In Align Content only affects the spacing of multiple rows in a Flex container with FlexWrap. The spacing of multiple rows does not refer to the individual child items themselves. Instead, it refers to the space between the rows of items as a whole inside the container. Each row may already have child items aligned by Align Items. Align Content moves entire rows as blocks up, down, or distributes them across the container. Please observe the given diagram. Our next example uses 3 child classes. Please observe the example. Our next example uses 3 child classes and does not use Align Items. Using the Flex property to control the width of child containers, our next example does not use percentages to define the width. Instead, it uses the Flex property. In this example, a single class is applied to 3 div elements, and the class uses Flex. 1. Applying Flex 1 to the 3 child div elements ensures that all 3 children have the same width, even though the class was originally intended for a single child. Our next example demonstrates using the Flex property to control the different widths of child containers. The value of Flex determines how the available width is divided among the items in a single row. The larger the Flex value, the wider the item will be relative to the others. Please observe the Flex values of the child classes and examine the example output. Let us elaborate on how the Flex property works. It is composed of 3 components: FlexGrow, FlexShrink, and FlexBasis. The FlexGrow property controls how much additional space an item can take up relative to the other items in the container, while FlexShrink controls how much an item can shrink when there is not enough space. The FlexBasis property determines the initial size of an item before the remaining space is distributed according to FlexGrow and FlexShrink. Please observe how the widths are computed according to the value of Flex in percentages, so that you can understand how the browser interprets the Flex property. The following example demonstrates the shorthand and longhand ways of declaring the Flex property. Please observe how the values work using FlexGrow, FlexShrink, and FlexBasis. Please observe the different examples using the Flex property with various values. Thank you for watching this topic. I hope this tutorial has provided you with additional knowledge about creating templates using modern techniques.